So good morning and welcome to the Northwest Arkansas Center for Spiritual Living. Happy Sunday. We come together every Sunday morning for inspiration, for community, for unity, to experience this invisible thing of God within and through each of ourselves individually and through community. We know and recognize that when we see each other, we're looking at the hands and the eyes of God. So we're here to remind each other who we are, the true and divine nature of who we are, and we affirm that and hold that truth for each other. So it's a love fest. Every Sunday is a beautiful love fest, awakening to the divine nature that is within each one of us, that realizing that we are not separate from God, we are not separate from our good, and in this truth that is inherent within us, this deep, this wellspring of good of God that is innate within each of us, in this community, we express that. We express that truth, we speak from that truth, and we remind each other of that truth. So it's a positive, happy way to experience our Sunday and grow together, transform together, and remember that we're all one, that your path is my path is your path, that in this beautiful space of oneness, that we are each individuals on our own journey, but we get to share in this bliss of God together when we come together as community. So welcome. Our mission for Northwest Arkansas Center for Spiritual Living is that we're a teaching chapter. It's great to come and listen to inspirational things, but it's even more of a blessing to learn how to apply these things in your life. And that's what we do. We teach people how to do that. We teach people how to use spiritual principles within their life so that you can go out in the world and hone this truth and perfect it so that you can use it in your life. So that's our mission. That's what we're passionate about, is to teach people. We don't want to tell people what to do. You get to figure out what you need to do and how you need to do it. We just get to share that information. And it's all God. It's all good. So our mission is, again, to teach. So there's a welcoming table that is talking, that offers different brochures and flyers about who we are, what we believe, what classes are upcoming, and all that stuff's on the table. So definitely, if you're a guest for the first time, sign into our registry so that we can keep you updated on upcoming functions and events and all that kind of good stuff. But so welcome home. Welcome home to a place where we remind each other that we are one. We remind each other in all of life that we are the eyes and hands of God, and that when we see each other, we recognize that in each other. That is the divine nature of each of us. We start out each of our Sundays by saying affirmation. And an affirmation is a powerful way to speak life into your life. An affirmation is a way to recognize this perfection, divine right action in all of the universe. We know that the river doesn't need to be told to flow. The sun doesn't need to be told to rise. The stars don't need to be told to shine. But for some reason in our humanness, we need to be reminded that this perfection is always happening. It's always taking place, and it's good. The very heart of God, the qualities of God are good. They are about love. They are about oneness. They are about unity. So as we speak this truth into our lives by saying an affirmation, we do what? We speak life into life. And we get excited and energized by the truth that, wow, I don't have to make my day happen. I am living in this field of infinite good. There's nothing for us to do but bask in the glory of that. So we recognize that. So we're going to start out by speaking our affirmation together. If you open your brochures, there is a January affirmation, and we're going to recite it together. I know that Spirit goes before me and makes perfect, plain, direct, and immediate my way. I rest in calm peace and absolute certainty that all the good there is devoted to my well-being. I know this is the truth about everyone. I view myself as part of this divine union of all things. Therefore, I know that I am one with every person, every event, every situation that arises in my experience. I know that I bring forth from all persons and events which I contact the best that is in them, and I know I give back the best that it is in me. And so it is.
So it is.
Science of Mind, for some of you that may be new to this community, new to Science of Mind, new to Ernest Holmes, it sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? Science of Mind, like what in the world is that? Science of Mind is a faith, it is a belief, and it's a way of life that is dedicated to awakening all of humanity to recognizing their oneness and unity with all of life. And I'm just going to do this simple, if you take the law of gravity, we hold up a pen, we let it go, we know it's going to fall. There's a universal presence and essence within all of life that works just that way. But for some reason, as humans, we think we need to climb the mountain to get to the top of it. We think that we need to turn ourselves inside out. When it's been there, right here, all the time. The thing that we are trying to attain, more love, more happiness, more joy, more peace, is right here. It's within you. So we're going to talk more about that in the message today, and I'm going to hush, and I'm going to bring up Mr. Will Jeffries, who is going to bless us with his musical talents this day. And we're going to sing one song together as community.
I'm excited about the message, the whole enchilada.
So, yeah, the whole enchilada we're going to talk about today.
I was wondering if everybody would maybe kind of scooch that up, just, so we can I don't know.
We don't want to leave Will all by himself up here.
His first two rows are kind of empty looking. But yeah. Appreciate everybody coming out today. And the song that we're going to sing is Spirit-Led, Spirit-Fed. That's you, August. It's you.
Yeah, see what you did?
Yeah. Kind of shook things up a little bit.
You created a flurry.
I did. And doesn't that feel a little bit better?
He feels better.
So the first one we're going to sing is Spirit-Led, Spirit-Fed. It's just, some of you might have heard it before. It's just, it's an easy tune to get, so we'll just go right into it.
In the middle.
Flowing like song is kind of just a reflective song. It's not in the bulletin, but I found it online this week. It's called "Fill Your Heart Up" by Gail Swanson, and she wrote it back in 2000, and it's just a very inspirational song, speaking about how love is really the only thing that matters in the universe. So it was very inspirational to me. So hopefully y'all will enjoy it. Say you can't take it with you when you go now. Put your things down, take it slow now, and you'll get there. Ain't no reason to be tied down to a truckload of toys and a playground if you don't care. 'Cause it's love that matters. When the day is through, it's only love that matters. You can take that with you. So fill your heart up with every sweet drop of love that comes your way. Every random act of kindness, every sunny day. Fill it up, baby, take it with you, let it show. 'Cause if you don't have a full heart when it's time to leave, you take nothing when you go. When the road feels a little colder, you gotta lean in and hug the shoulder of a good friend. Reach out to somebody that you don't know, a troubled heart that's flying so low in a cold wind. 'Cause it's love that matters. When the day is through, it's only love that matters. You can take that with you. So fill your heart up with every sweet drop of love that comes your way. Every random act of kindness, every sunny day. Fill it up, baby, take it with you, let it show. 'Cause if you don't have a full heart when it's time to leave, you take nothing when you go. Thank you. And y'all can Google her to find the song. It's very inspirational.
Who did you say it was?
Gail Swanson. Yeah, she's pretty good. She's pretty talented.
And so are you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Ooh, yes.
Sometimes y'all can like close your eyes and just listen to the music. You know, that's what I do. But anyway, whole enchilada.
Nice thing. Yes, the whole enchilada. Yes. So let's take a moment to go into prayer. This is a moment where we just release everything that has come before this moment of now. We allow our thinking minds to rest. And we allow our heart to open, to awaken, to listen. We recognize that that in this heart center within each one of us, this divine intelligence that brings us to this powerful moment of now in each of our lives has something to say, that we have brought together to listen to this message. And I know that every word that is spoken for each of us, that there is something that we are listening to, something that we are seeking as we were gathered together today to call forth that which is God, that which is good, that is absolutely infinitely around, through, and within everything. So we are so blessed just to know that, just to know that. So I know as we listen to this message today, we are listening from our heart centers, that we are open and awake and calling forth this, this bliss of good, this bliss of God, and this connection that is always ever available within each of us is turned on, that we are turned on by the light of God. And knowing that everything that needs to be said and heard and done is already done in the mind of God. So I am absolutely grateful for this opportunity to serve, to lead, just to be, just to bask in this beauty of good together in community. We affirm this by saying together, and so it is.
So it is.
The whole enchilada. Traditionally, all of the Centers for Spiritual Living were an international organization. There's Centers for Spiritual Living all over the United States, all over the world. And traditionally, in the month of January, we talk about the creative process, which is the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind text. Every center does this traditionally, and it reminds us, what is it? How does it work? How do I use it in my life? So it's a beautiful place to remind us, especially in January, you know, that we're not living in this stream of habitualness, of, you know, repeating our life history, that it's the recognition that everything is made new in every moment, that we choose it by our thought. So we get to remember how this process works through bringing forth the invisible to the visible. I'm going to read a quote which Ernest Holmes wrote, and he talks about freedom. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All of us instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to our inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, and a freedom of which our soul craves. Isn't that it? Isn't that what life's all about? Does that feel good to everybody? Just to bask in that. And that's what we come here to do. That's what we come here to do. We come here to talk about how are we a part of that? How do I work that in my life? How do I experience that freedom and that liberation on a daily basis? So the whole enchilada talks about A to Z, what that process looks like. So to recap what we've talked about a little bit this past month, we're going to talk about first the first chapter of Science of Mind, which is called the thing itself. So I have to ask this because I'm so curious. What do you think the thing itself is? What do you think that means? If somebody told me the thing itself, I would be like, huh? I don't know. It's God. It's God. It's what Ernest Holmes called God. He referred to God very often in a lot of his writings as the thing itself. How does a human person define and articulate what God is? Well, he did it in 3 words. The thing itself. That was his way to do it in 3 words. But it's a very interesting concept that it's very hard to articulate the thing itself. So to dive a little bit deeper beyond the thing itself and go into God, first I'm going to mention the qualities of God. God is happiness, peace, prosperity, perfection, wholeness, infinite wisdom, clarity, love, unconditional love. God is everything good. The qualities of God is everything good. And I think for everyone, just to acknowledge the process that maybe you have gone through in your life, I know I have gone through it in my life. I was told differently, as I think we all were, what God was as growing up, depending on, our parents, what our parents did and believed. But I did get to go through that little brief history of thinking that that I was a sinner, I was damned, I was judged, and I needed to be fearful of this God thing that was going to get me if I didn't behave right? That's what I remember being told God was. And as I went into my journey as a young adult and matured, and I was seeking to understand what is God in my own life, I went to church one day, and the minister said something about God was jealous. And I had been going to this church for like 16 months. And I remember in my seat getting hot and getting sweaty and just not feeling comfortable at all with what was being said. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And a little voice in my ear said, you can leave now. Really? This is my foundation. I loved going to church. I wanted to learn more. But you can leave now. Okay, so I did. And I remember distinctly, and it was this time of year, I remember distinctly walking through the parking lot and cussing God all the way to my car. I was like, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now? So, needless to say, sometimes our paths take twists and turns that we had no idea that they were coming. And I had a pouty lip. I had a pouty lip for like 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden the Free Weekly came out, and there was a picture of Reverend Denise Schubert at the Center of Creative and Conscious Living. And I went, okay, I don't even understand those words. I don't even know what they mean. But my heart said, you need to go see her. And with my heart being open, I said, okay. And from the moment I went to hear her and meet her, my whole life changed. Like that, in the bat of an eye. And that was what brought me to this philosophy, to this faith. So sometimes we don't get to know, we don't get to know what's going on, but we're trusting in the process of what is speaking to us, what is trying to knock on this little thing, what's trying to get our attention. And I honestly, I had to release my agenda at that point. I had to release my agenda and just say, okay. So I moved forward, but so it's in that context that we realize that God is omnipresent. That God is not on a cloud saying, yes, you can have this, no, you can't have that. It's not a place of heaven and hell are not places of real estate. That it's consciousness. It's all about our thoughts. We're either creating in heaven or we're creating hell for ourselves. It's up to us. So we talk about an omnipresent God. That means there's no place that God is not. It's invisible. It's invisible. And that's our theme for this month, invisible to visible. How do we bring that omnipresent idea of God out of the invisible into the invisible in our experience? The thing that came to my heart when I wrote this message was this quote. And this would be the thing that I want you to all go home and remember throughout. This is the central message. When we are prepared to put God first, the thing happens. So it's very simple that I had to put my agenda away as to what I thought my spiritual path was going to be. And I had to put God first and open up and listen to say, where is it that I'm going? Okay, you're going over here. Okay, here we go. I could have resisted it. I could have fought it. I could have put it off. I could have just dismissed it. Because let me tell you, my ego jumped in many times to say, why would you want to do that? You've been going to this other church for 16 months. Why would you want to change your course at this point? You know, what is this? So my ego did jump in. My ego did say my ego wanted to keep me in my comfort zone. It didn't want me to walk into a place where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know I didn't know if I'd have anybody relate. I mean, you just don't know. When you step into something new, you're stepping into the land of I don't know. And for some people can comfortably move through that process, and other people, we may have a challenge. We may have a challenge. But I think inside within each of us, we're a little scared. You know, we're a little apprehensive. We're sweating. Maybe we've got to use a little more deodorant that day. But there's something that propels us to move us forward, and here we are. And that's what we do every week. So talking about this thing itself, that is boundless energy, that is within everything, and it's beyond description. We cannot describe God. But you know what can? Our hearts can. Our hearts can describe God, and we don't run out of words. It's that feeling that we are home in the heart of God in every moment. That's what we're called. We have the opportunity to live in that field, in that kingdom of heaven in every moment. It's up to us to choose it. So, talking about omnipresent, the thing itself, the God that is infinite and everywhere. It's the interconnectedness of all life, that there's only one source that brought us and created us. There's only one source of all life. So that's the thing itself. Then we move on to the way it works, the creative process. And probably the easiest way to talk about the creative process is using the example seed, soil, plant. That our thoughts are seeds, they are creative. That what thought we put out into the universe will be returned to us. So it is done unto you as you believe. So if I believe that I'm going to have a yucky Monday tomorrow, I've put that thought out there and I've created that very thing. So the universe is going to say, the universe always says yes, by the way. God never says no. Spirit, this universal presence, essence, whatever it is that we want to call it, that's up to you, and that's your relationship with God. We can call it whatever we want. But that whatever thought we put out there, it's returned to us. So seed, soil, plant. So what kind of seeds are we planting in our garden? So it's this infinite intelligence that works through us. It's very interesting in the human condition that we think that we need to attain something. We feel like we need to master a skill, or we think that we need to take a class or listen to something outside of us, when all the wisdom and all the clarity is within. And it's just in that recognition of realizing that's how it works. And I remember going to my first foundations class going, oh my gosh, it works through me, seriously? And I was like, I looked back on my life at things that happened, and then I looked forward at possibilities, and I went, oh, I'm scared. I don't want this responsibility, and a lot of people do. It takes It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to be a conscious creator and realize that each of you have that power innate within you, and you can use it any way you want. So some people are like, nope, ignorance is bliss. Have you ever heard people say that? Ignorance is bliss. No, I'd like to just stay in my own little world and think that, you know, I'm a victim of the economy. I'm a victim of life. Life is happening to me rather than life is happening for me. But when we awaken to this truth that is the inherent divine nature of each of us, we have to make that choice. To step into the flow of life, at some point, we have got to say, okay, I'm in. I'm either in or out. I'm either in and I'm going to create a life that I love to live, or I'm going to blame it, or I'm going to stay in victimhood and I'm going to blame it on my spouse and my boss and my kids and the economy. That's the choice that we have every day. Every day. And it takes darn courage and lots of stubbornness to say, I see this economy not looking so good, but I know over here that I'm an abundant child of God. It takes pure stubbornness to put that economy away and say, I am going to choose abundance. I'm going to choose this for my life. And what's very interesting in our walk through this creative process, we don't know the how or the why. We don't know how it's going to happen. Just as I didn't know that I was going to get catapulted from one idea of God to another. I had no clue it was going to happen. So there's an ebb and flow that we get to. At every moment, we have a choice to connect with it and allow it to embrace us and take us places that we never thought were possible, or we have another opportunity to run like heck. It's always there. It's ever available. It's all about how are we using it. Are we dancing with it? Are we collaborating with it? Are we talking to it? Or are we ducked in our corner saying, no, I'm just rather not partake. I'll just go the way I've been going. So when we look at this, you know, in the thought that talked about in Genesis, in the beginning there was the Word. In the beginning there was thought, self-awareness. We become, obviously, when we step out of victimhood and we choose to live a consciously creative life, we choose to be self-aware. We choose to have a dialogue with ourselves on a deep, rich, intimate level that we never had before. And why are we doing that? Because we realize that we are powerful, that we can do absolutely anything. And we you know, I would have to say that in my journey of that, I've gotten more comfortable with it. But there's an ebb and flow to it. There's times where, you know, and I've been on this journey myself for, this is probably my 7th year. But in the beginning, you know, in the beginning, it was, it had its moments, because it's all of a sudden you see the world. When you realize that you are powerful and you're creative and that you can have and be and do anything you desire, it takes your breath away. And then I wonder, you know, one of my bigger questions has always been, what if we were told this at the moment we were born? What do you think our lives would be if we were told at the moment we were born that we had this ability? How different would our life be? How different would our children's lives be? How different would the world be? And so I guess part of me is kind of happy that it was kept a secret, because I'm like, what makes us keep seeking God? You know, what makes us have this desire? If we would have known the truth, would we seek? Would we commune? Would we have an intimate relationship with this universal source of all life? Would we want to? Or would we take it for granted? So in the not knowing, in the not knowing everything, there is such a beauty, I think. There is such a freedom and a liberation to say, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I know that I am loved, that I'm adored. And through this dance of self-awareness, what happens? We get to love ourselves more. Through God, through ourselves. And this immense love just spills out and overflows, and we can't help but share it with others. It's just automatic. My cup overflow. So the Spirit works through us. It is not obviously outside of us. It is through us that happens. So the thing itself is part of us. We are part of God. We are children of God. There's nothing that we are ordained. We are, we've been given everything that we require. And when we think different, it's our mind. It's not our heart center saying that. It is definitely a game of the mind to say, I need, I want. I think what's interesting is to take away the need and the want and say, I am. I am. Because then the things, the biggest disease in the world is the idea of separation. And disease is a mental affliction that humanness have created. So we think that we're separate from God. Okay, we've dispelled that idea. That's not true. Well, then here's the other idea, that we think we're separate from our good. So that brings us to the creative process, the how does it work in my life part of it. And first of all, the creative process. There is no time in God, so we have to acknowledge that. There is no past, there is no future, there's only now. So anything that came before this moment, guess what? It doesn't exist. That fight with your mom 20 years ago, that separation between you and your brother that you don't talk anymore, or whatever it was in your past, poof, it's gone. Doesn't exist. There is no baggage in the train of now. There's only now. So we're not bringing anything with us, but our true beauty, our true nature, the divine inheritance within us. And if we are bringing something with us, it's best to check. Do I want to check that baggage, or would I like to let it go? We have that opportunity in every moment. To see that. So in this powerful moment of now, I meet this wonderful man who I'm excited about, second date, whatever it may be. I'm divorced. I have the opportunity to look at him and see him as pure and whole and perfect and complete, or I have the opportunity to see him maybe as my experience of every other man I've ever met and say, I'm not going there. So we're creating the idea of that reality for and as ourselves. So we can go beyond what we have. We can love ourselves beyond what we have ever done. And in the same respect, when we do that, we can love others more and beyond than we ever have before. Because I can tell you that we're not meant to live this life in aloneness. We're not. As within, so without. So the journey in this creative process really becomes recognizing, okay, Spirit works through me, through each of us. For Spirit to work through each of us, that we are vessels of the one, first of all, we've got to allow it to flow. So when that love walks into our life, whether it be a stranger holding a door open, or whether it be a surprise phone call from a prayer partner, whatever that love shows up to be, we've got to allow it to come through. And when we are loving ourselves in new ways, then others can love ourselves in new ways too. Albert Einstein talked about the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we have an area in our lives that we've not been happy with, no matter if it's finances, relationships, maybe we have a history of buying a lemon year after year, I don't know what it is. For each of us it's different, but generally there's usually an area that, you know, hey, this area, and this area of my life are going great, but this area's always had a problem. So it's taking that area that may be where we need to work on and seeing it completely differently. It's going to happen through us. In our communing with the truth and loving ourselves, and 9 times out of 10 it's loving ourselves, is there's some kind of belief or something not happening that we're not loving ourselves fully into capacity. There's somewhere where we've left something off somewhere, whether it be maybe in our family dynamic, maybe our mother wasn't very, just wasn't very communicative about love. You know, yeah, she loved me, she just didn't say it a lot. You know, that kind of thing. Which may show up in our lives that we're not able to say it to others. But the point is that whatever area that it is that may not be the way that you want it to be, you always have the opportunity to invigorate it and create something different and create something new. And it's really just our conscious recognition to say, that's interesting. Let's take a look at that. What does that look like? The spirit within each one of us is God. It is perfect. It is love. It is reason. It is life. It is truth and it is beauty. It is limitless and perfect and complete and whole. It knows no lack. It knows no limitation. It knows no history. It knows no history. We enter into that freedom with joy, free from every sense of sadness and burden. We enter into it with laughter and lightness. It is something which lifts us above the heaviness and the lack and the limitation into a rare atmosphere where our opinions do not collide. And we enter into it with peace, free from fear. We know that the infinite wholeness is in us and through us and around us now. And we are conscious that we are renewed in this very moment, instantly, perfectly, and in the image of perfection. So what I love about this, I think this is a beautiful segue, thank you, Spirit, into what it does. Instantaneous. You know, a lot of this law of attraction stuff, you've heard this, the law of cause and effect, which is another way to put it, the law of attraction. There's a lot of names for the creative process, what Ernest Holmes calls the creative process. And I think what's interesting for me, now you may not have the same idea, but when we talk about the law of attraction and manifesting, making things happen in our lives, that just irks me. Because we are abundant children of God. We have everything. There's nothing that we can't have or do or be. So to me, I think what's interesting is that manifesting is almost, it sounds like jogging. I have to jog a mile, or like I have to, no. It's ever available. It's instantaneous. So when we align in our conscious thought with the truth, that everything we desire is always ever available, we're manifesting the truth. We're demonstrating from working with this creative, infinite, abundant supply of God that is ever available. And that may not hit you the same way. It may not hit you the same way. What comes to mind is the only thing that has ever keeps us from our good is ourselves. It's not been my boss, my husband, the economy. It's not been anything outside of us. It's been within us. So to create from this infinite substance, all of a sudden we realize that the kingdom of heaven has always ever been present. It's always ever been available. So we ask ourselves, because I am a conscious, powerful, creative individual, how am I using that in my life? What affirmations am I saying to feed myself as I walk about my life? Am I saying, am I feeding life into life, or am I jumping into lack, limitation, or separation? Because if we go back to the beginning of the thought, at the beginning of the talk, when we are prepared to put God first, the thing happens. When we are prepared to put the truth first, life happens. Where are we sourcing our thoughts from? Are they God thoughts? Are they true? Or are they human thoughts of lack, limitation, or separation? Because if God, Jesus, the universal, any spiritual philosopher that we've ever heard of or known of, if they came to this all and gathered with us here today, they would say, oh, my child, you are perfect. You're beautiful. You are loved. You are adored. And you are enough right now to do and be absolutely anything. And there's not one of them that would say anything different. They may be of all different religions and all different philosophies, Eastern and Western and whatever it may be, but they're all going to say the same thing, that you are made in God's image and likeness, and you are fully equipped, and you are absolutely enough. So if you call that manifesting, then so be it. I call that truth. So when we source our life from that truth, we're in that field of infinite good. And it takes practice. That I will say. It takes practice to remind our little ego mind to take a back seat and call forth the truth. Call forth the truth. There is no great. There is no big. There is no small to the infinite. There is just infinite. We are guided into the knowledge of happiness, of certainty, of wholeness, and of freedom. And we know that there is a subtle essence of spirit which emanates from us at all times. We recognize this oneness, that we look like individuals, but we are not separate from each other. We are not separate from our good, that we are enveloped in this inner, I would say intertwangledness and interconnectedness of all life. And what we're here to do matters. We matter. We count. Our living and our breathing has great significance. And when we think of, to give you an image around infinite supply, think in your mind's eye, picture a flame. And see the flame on the candle lit, and see the wick and the flame burning. And from that, ask yourself, where is God in that wick and that flame burning? You're the flame and you're the wick. That you have the ability, each of us have the ability to light the flame of another individual. We have the ability to love someone up and remind them of their truth, or we have the ability to do otherwise. But the point is, we have the power. It's which way are we going to use it? So we see that we have the opportunity to live from this wellspring of infinite good, and it doesn't take away from anybody else. You know, there's enough. The supply, this infinite supply, is enough. We are enough. It is bountiful, it is beautiful, it is immense, beyond what we could ever imagine. Some people are fearful, have some fear around, especially around finances and prosperity, that in business, you know, well, if there's three printers on the same street, how could they all survive? Well, I don't believe in competition. I never have. Never have. I've never bought into that. I don't believe in that now. To see that the law of infinite supply feeds everyone bountifully. Anything other than that has been a lack in mental belief. It's been a poverty is a mental condition, a human condition. The idea of debt equals doubt. Debt equals doubt. Doubt equals debt. They feed each other. And that when we there would be no poverty in the world if everyone recognized that this world is one of infinite supply. And the law of circulation, the law of giving and receiving, is forever feeding all. So it's our openness. We get that hoarding mentality when it comes around money. And it comes up like that for everybody. It's just what we see in the world. You know, I've only got $30 to get me through the next week. I can't tithe. I can't do anything. I can't take that class. Well, that I can't will be the derivative that sources your life for who knows how long until you choose another thought. The interesting part for me was when I took science and mind classes, every single class when it was time to sign up, I never had the money. I always paid in payments, but I always had what I needed every time I needed it. But it wasn't, you know, I wasn't able to pay for the whole class at one time. And I thank God that those classes were available where I could make it and pay it in payments. You know, and your consciousness grows around that. But it's finances is a whole different area, whole different ball game. But it's the point that recognizing that the infinite supply, the flame in the wick, it's oneness, it's bountiful, and it doesn't take from. This infinite supply is inexhaustible. So when we talk about the way it works, we talk about mental equivalence. You know, it is done unto us as we believe. And it's important to recognize and ask ourselves as we go about our life, am I thinking in my heart? Am I thinking in my head? Because God thinks in your heart. And this little ego thing that comes up to say, you can't be that, oh, you're late, you don't look good enough today, me, that's your ego, that's not God. If you have a feeling that is God, it will lift you up, it will fill you up, it will invigorate you and stimulate you. That's God. That's a God thought. If it's pulling you down, weighting you down, making you more dense, and not pleasing to you, it's not God. Just let it go. It's like that little puppy or that scratching at your feet. Come on, pay attention to me. We have a choice whether or not we pay attention to our heart-centered thoughts or our ego-centered thoughts. The Spirit can only give us what we can take. It imparts of itself only as we can partake of its nature. It can tell us only what we can understand. The infinite knowingness becomes our wisdom only in the degree that we are able to embody its intelligence. That's a mental equivalent. So if I believe that my income is going to be ... well then I've already written myself a check. It's done. Because it's done unto us as we believe. When we incorporate new ideas and new realms and new possibilities, Okay, I can write myself a new check. But we leave to God, the universal intelligence, the how and the why. There's where faith comes in. We leave the how and the why to God. And we trust in this invisible, bringing forth within our life the visible. How do we do this? We do spiritual practices. We derive and source our life from our spiritual essence, not of the world. Not of my college degree, not of where I went to school, not by who I was raised, not because my parents are rich. We derive ourselves from our God essence. Going back to the quote, when we are prepared to put God first, the thing happens. That's where we source our life. When we source our life from that true, purest form of who we are, then all glorifies us, through us. And we go, why was I thinking that? Why was I doing that? I did that to myself. And we grow and we evolve from the very thing that may have been our speed bump. But the point is, we get over it. We evolve from it. It's not that we can't push it away. We cannot push it away, but we can evolve from it to say, I don't have to believe that anymore about myself. I don't have to believe that this world is having a bad economy. I don't have to buy into that story. I don't have to buy into the PMS thing. I don't have to buy into that. Whatever it may be, whatever it is, where we're at in our life, when we lose our mind and go to the true source of our heart-centered wisdom and clarity that is within us, we see how silly the human stuff has been. Because could you have a conversation with God about PMS? Think about this. Put your conversations in the context as if you're talking to God. What would God say? What would the source, the spirit, the universal presence, the essence, what would it say about life? It would say, you are loved, you are adored, you are beautiful, you have everything you need, you are physical perfection. The world has created this PMS thing. And their marketing, they've been good at that. How does a person who is maybe physically handicapped go beyond the idea of maybe they lost a leg and they were a runner? What compels them to become a magnificent runner as an amputee? There are bigger, the things that we can surpass through our heart center, to know that even in the midst of being physically impaired and being an amputee, he's still equipped. That person is still equipped to run and win that race. We are equipped. A dear, sweet person brought to me this past week. She said she saw it on another, and it was a tattoo. And I've been thinking about it all week. The tattoo was right here, and it said, I am enough. I am enough. We are enough. You are enough. Right here, right now. Nothing else required. But to just sink into that truth and derive the source of your life from that. That you are enough. You have everything you could want or ever need. And what happens when we do that, when we partake of this creative process, it comes to us. Life flows to us with ease, with grace, with effortlessness. And guess what happens? We can enjoy it. We can enjoy it while it's happening. We can let go and surrender to know that there is something within all of life, God, Spirit, whatever it is, it's got my back. It's got your back. And in every moment that we are experiencing an opportunity to call forth and source our life from that truth, we do it. I am enough. I am whole, perfect, and complete. I am healthy. I am one with God. I am loved. I'm adored. The universe duplicates that truth and says, yes, yes, you are enough. Yes, Will, you are an abundant child of God. Yes, and it gives you more. Because what our thoughts are thinking will be multiplied and magnified within our life. So think about what a day would feel like if you, a whole entire day, maybe a whole entire week, a whole entire month, whatever it may be. That itty by bitty, that we can use this creative process and source ourselves from the truth. Living inspired. Take that word apart. Living inspired. Living in spirit. That's the only thing we've ever needed to recognize or realize within our life. That in every moment we are living in spirit. We are in tune, turned on. That divine light has always been turned on in our life.